How to overcome fear, doubt, and worry. Okay. So today, welcome back to another episode of Healing into Femininity. It's me, Joanna. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And today I want to dive in and really go into maybe even the topics that we all really want to figure out for ourselves. So, number one, as I said, how to overcome fear. That's a big one. So I like to go straight to the point, be very efficient, and maybe do some storytelling. Okay. So the thing is, what is fear? Fear is, like, people would like to say, false evidence appearing real. But yeah, fear is a feeling that lives inside the body, right? And fear, what is fear kind of indicating, or what is fear triggering? I believe fear triggers the fear, like death, some kind of pain, some kind of pain, and also death. So when we say we are afraid of something, what does that mean? We are, most of the time, we are afraid either to get hurt, either physically, emotionally, psychologically, financially. We are afraid to get hurt, and we are afraid of ultimately like dying, because pain is uncomfortable and also death is uncomfortable, right? So the fear, there are four like basic fears that we have in this human body. Is kind of like the fear of being wrong, right? The fear of shining too bright, because all of that, the fear of being, the fear of being an outcast, and the fear of, yeah, having to handle maybe success or something like that. So basically, all in all, is fear of other people and fitting in into society. That's why I always like to say psychology or human inner work and journaling, mindfulness, like also mentorship of helping people to get to the next level is one part of the job, right? Is fundamental, is very important. But it's always, again, in relationship to society, meaning other people, right? So we want to be in contact with other people, or we ultimately are, if you want or not. This is part of the human experience. You're not alone on this planet. Okay, so the fear is really about being afraid of others. Have you ever heard that? I think I have never heard that before, and I've also never read that anywhere, that we're ultimately, our biggest fear is our fear of other people. Can we let that sink in for a little bit? We are afraid of other people. We are afraid of other human beings. And I am a big fan of not bypassing or overriding the fear, but actually allowing myself to feel the fear, because there is maybe even some truth in that fear. So let me give you a little example of about last weekend, or of last weekend. I was in Paris and we booked this Airbnb, and the Airbnb was actually fine. The Airbnb itself was fine. And there was also, like, we had a balcony and we had the view to the, like, to the Sacré-Cœur, and also the Eiffel Tower. So it could have been like a, maybe like a good address, right? But it was right in front of our house. It was bad. There were only men, and it was, maybe it was refugees, not maybe. It was refugees from Africa and maybe like North Africa. So only like Arab people and Africans, and mostly only men. So maybe really on the other side, right in front of our house, and also right in front of our house, there were like 100 or even more men the whole day. And later on, I found out this is something like a self-organized market, but there were people literally laying around. Like, it was so bad. Like, this was worse than the ghetto. Yeah, it, as I said, like the apartment itself, was fine, and also the building, and also the location. It was in the center of Paris, but it was this point exactly there was very bad. And also, it was not so safe, like us being three young women also wanting to go out. So one day I also dressed up with my little shorty shorts and looking all sexy and my high heels. So I was aware. I was aware. I mean, I have some experience, life experience. So I wasn't afraid because I actually didn't feel an urgent threat from these men. I didn't, but I was aware that I am a woman. I'm an attractive woman, and there are 100 men outside of my house or more. So I wanted to share this as an example. It is okay. Maybe an earlier version of myself would have been more like, I am not afraid, but I was more overriding my fear to be cool or something like that. To be cool and to be like, yeah, no, I'm not afraid. I'm so cool. But now it's more of an integrated version of myself where I feel like, yeah, no, actually, I could actually feel some fear, which would be legitimate because I think there is some kind of real danger, right? There's a distinction between fear and danger, but just to really mix it together a little bit, fear should be felt. That's what I believe. Fear should be felt. Only if you allow yourself to feel the fear, you will find out even maybe why you are afraid. And sometimes it is legitimate. It's legitimate to feel the fear. It's legitimate to feel afraid of certain things. But only if you allow that fear to come out, you can then either maybe contemplate the fear if it's actually really rational, if there's a lot of risk or maybe not so much risk, and if you still want to do it. There can still be a lot of times, I believe a lot of times the fear is not so, it's actually not so giving up, it's not so dangerous, or it's not so important as we think. It's just a little impulse. And I believe that we should pay attention to the impulse, but not let it drive us, right? So the fear, to overcome the fear of other people, to overcome the fear of, and there are so many videos on that as well, the fear of being killed. As I said, oh my God, like I'm going all the way down into the darkness, right? But I like to go there because I think it's the root, and then we can elaborate into more everyday examples. The fear of death, or the fear of getting harmed, right? The fear of pain, as I said. We want to avoid that. That's a natural human instinct. We want to avoid the pain. We will never avoid death, but we will avoid pain. And what I also believe is that the fear that we have, if we feel into it, and if we feel like the baseline is the fear of getting killed or getting hurt. I said it in another video before, and maybe that's a little controversial. I personally believe to not be so afraid anymore. It's important for us, especially for women, to activate our inner warrior, to activate the part in us that is actually afraid, not afraid to fight back. This helped me a lot, because I believe that we as women, we have been conditioned, like that's just everywhere. And if I say conditioned, it's not only in childhood, it still happens. Like we are constantly being conditioned. And especially, and that's why I like to talk about what I talk about, especially now where so many women are talking about femininity and things like that, making it a very soft and kind of impotent version of femininity. I don't want to generalize, but a lot of the content, I feel like that's it. But I feel that it's very important to know that you actually have an inner killer, that you actually also can protect yourself. Of course, I don't want to do it. I don't want to fight, but I know that I could. Yeah, I know that I would. Maybe not even could, but I know that I would. I don't I don't inhibit myself from protecting myself through verbal, a verbal pushback, maybe even physical if it's necessarily. Again, I am not saying that I could, but I would. I would. So I hope that you know where I'm coming from. So the fear, that just basic, I'm talking very rudimentally, and we can apply it to everywhere, everything. The fear, I believe, number one, we have to feel it and we have to admit that we are afraid, and then we can dissect it and really see what's the solution. So if you're afraid of physical harm, yeah, at the end of the whole scenario, maybe it leads to unaliving or something like that. Um, I think it will activate the inner warrior in you. Okay, so very, very deep, basic fear root, death, pain, fear, like literal danger of threatening your life. This is what fear is. So this is also how fear, like when we talk about stress today, most people are suffering from stress, and stress has a lot of consequences on our whole system. When we have stress, we can't really digest. It will lead to overweight. It will lead to not really thinking. It will lead to short-term thinking, because when we are stressed, it's literally a fight and flight trigger, yeah, that will put us in direct survival mode. So it is only about actually fighting. Again, that's what I mean, the fighting, the warrior. And I feel like it's important as women to not bypass this, yeah, especially because there can be like a spiritual teaching in doctrine that is more like of the higher and purer and more beautiful, and everything is peace and love and harmony and rainbows, which I love 100%. And at the same time, I feel like, especially for women, because we have never been taught, like on a collective level, we have never been really taught that how important, first of all, how dangerous this world actually really is. And I spoke about that before, that this world is dangerous, especially for a woman, because with everything that's going on, it is a danger. And then on top of that, men, other human men, are a whole other, let's call it species, yeah, that actually also is another threat to a woman. Not only the wild animals, we don't really have them anymore in the city life, but not only the outside world is harsh, but men can be the most dangerous predators for women. Okay, so I think it's important for us women to actually realize, because I think not enough people say that the world is dangerous. The world is dangerous if you don't know how to navigate yourself through it. So I am more of an like a wake up evangelist, right? Waking up to reality, waking up to the physical reality. Yeah, and the physical reality is that it can get dangerous for a woman out here in these streets. Okay, so acknowledging that fear. Also, when you are with men, when you feel threatened, because I feel like many women, many of us, me too, we have not, because we like nobody helped us to come into this awareness. We suppress that feeling of, I actually feel threatened. I feel threatened. So we push that feeling down and we don't let it come up. But I'm inviting you to let it come up and be like, okay, I feel threatened. I allow my impulse to come up, and then I can still see how I want to move. Yeah, sometimes it's a quick second, I know, but I can't go into every detail, but I think you get the gist. Yeah. Okay, so this is the first basis that I wanted to set, and then I want to build up on it. Like how to overcome fear. Number one is to feel it and to recognize it and to know that it's there, and then to dissect it and think if it's actually necessary to have this fear, and then to move accordingly. Yeah. And then I want to go into the fear of being seen, right? The fear of being seen and the fear of being heard, especially for women. Again, the fear of being seen goes also back to being threatened, being too, as I said, there are like four fundamental fears, and one of the fear is the fear of standing out, the fear of overshining, shining, like shining above other people, being too bright, right? Being too bright, being too smart, being too successful, being too beautiful. All of these things is dangerous. And I want to say that because it is dangerous. I don't want to glorify it. I am saying that we should all go there. Like, that's definitely my path, and that's what I want to do. But it is also dangerous. It is dangerous to shine bright like a diamond. It is dangerous to speak your mind. It is dangerous to be seen. It is dangerous to be heard, because if you just mix in with the crowd, if you just blend in, if nobody notices you, you're invisible, and I think and you can hide in invisibility. But if you dare to come online or even offline, if you dare to embody yourself, to feel good in your body as a woman, to be sensual, to be radiating confidence and a sense of self-esteem, people are going to notice it. People are going to notice it, and you are going to attract everything. You're going to attract hate, jealousy, envy. You're going to also that's the only way how to also attract compliments and maybe support and promotion. But you will attract both the light and the dark. You will attract men, right? You will attract men. You will attract women that will hate you, because you trigger something in them that they are not. Men will hate you because they can't get with you. Women will hate you because they can't be you, or because you show them who they could have been, but they aren't. Yeah, you show them the potential that they haven't fed. Like, all of these things can be actual threats. So again, I want to bring it all the way back to, what are we afraid of? We are afraid to be physically harmed. We are afraid of pain, but not only physical, but psychological, emotional pain, sometimes even financial pain. Yeah. So, but we're afraid to be harmed because we shine so bright, because it happens. Okay. So let's not be naive. It does happen. So everyone is speaking about that, the fear of being seen, the fear of being heard. The same thing goes with, I just now mainly spoke about being seen, right? Being beautiful, being confident, being like a fashionista, wearing colors, making yourself beautiful, walking confidently, and all of that, not hiding, right, is being seen as shining bright. People cannot overlook you. Yeah. So you will attract all of their projection. Yeah. And then it's even more of a topic, or not more of a topic, but I think it's just as frightening for most, and maybe even more of a block, even. That's what I can say. Like, being beautiful is already a challenge for many. I have had the privilege of working with hundreds of women in the past few years, and also helping them to come into beauty, to come into visibility, come into beauty, come into self-love, coming into loving makeup, and actually wanting to be pretty, living the soft life and things like that. So, but being heard has different layers and different dimensions. But being heard is literally coming out of, again, like non-existing, being coming out of hiding, coming out of being nothing, or only physical. Because being heard is actually expressing how you feel, which is another dimension, right? The physical is one dimension, but the feeling is another dimension. And expressing yourself is letting your feelings come out, right? Letting your feelings come out, and not only your feelings, yeah, but also your intellect or your mind, right? Your thoughts, your point of view, your opinion, your facts, maybe even, what you have researched, what you've analyzed, what you've learned, what you know. Yeah, maybe from an intellectual, but also from an intuitive place. This is, I think that's the highest level. This is the deepest level, is to express truth. And truth, your feeling, your intellect, your mind, and your soul, your intuition is is most of the time not necessarily fitting into someone else's mold. And it's going to ruffle some feathers. It's going to create some friction. This is what I talked about in my other video, that in order to create, you have to you have to create friction, right? You have to create some energy. You have to create fire. You have to go against the grain. Yeah, go against the grain, or go against the majority of people, go against the mob mind. Yeah, so this is what is going to happen. And if that happens, again, you are afraid of physical danger, because it does happen. So I'm not going to be glorifying it. The fear is legitimate. The fear is legitimate. So I can also say, for example, and I know people like that, and I'm not here pointing out all the statistics, but just real life examples. If somebody says something and it doesn't, like maybe when you were a child, when you were younger, and you said something and your parents didn't like it, they hit you for it. That's the power of the word, right? You say something and you get hit. Mhm. Yeah, it is deep. It's a trauma, yeah, for the collective. The same thing can happen in abusive relationships, that you get hit by speaking up, speaking your truth. Yeah. Or sometimes people, like children, get hit because they cry. As I said, it's the voice. It's not even the words, but it's the voice. You cry and you get hit again, because maybe, or you scream. You already scream. It's a feeling, it's an expression of how you feel. And then your parents hit you because you're too loud, or they try to like make you be quiet in public, or things like that. Those things happen. Those things happen. So us using our voice, our breath, yeah, to create sound of whatever sound, can ruffle someone else's feathers, can trigger someone. So we can again be in physical danger, because other people will want to harm us, or there's a potential of getting harmed by speaking up. And the same goes like from layer to layer, speaking our truth, exposing things, right? Speaking about our experiences, negative experiences. This is what I want to be like, this is what I want to do. Not only my own experience, but also collective experiences from people that I know, from yes, statistics and facts, things that happen in this world. And when you speak up, you can get unalived. So there is a level of um it is legitimate, as I said, it's legitimate to have fear. It is legitimate um to be aware of what could be the consequence of doing what you're doing. And then of course we can only take our limited mind to maybe assess the risk, right? Assess the risk. And what is the risk? The risk can be, again, physical harm, financial harm, which can also lead to physical harm, any kind of harm that will ultimately lead to some kind of physical harm that can ultimately lead to some level of unaliving. You get the whole process, right? So it is legitimate, and that's why I want to talk about it. But at the same time, and this is where I want to propose a different way of seeing things, is if you feel the fear and if you know what could happen and if you are aware of the consequences, if you have kind of assessed the risk, which is only an assessment, it doesn't have to come out that way. But I believe the best thing to actually come to is to actually make peace with death. I know I can be very brutal, but that's just how I am. I like to be very efficient, so I go straight to the root. So I think it's about making peace with death and coming to the place of if you don't know what you're living for, like what are you dying for? And if you know what you're living for, if you know that you're living for speaking the truth, if you know um your truth, right? I don't think there's an ultimate truth, but I think there is a collective truth. And I believe that if you come to terms with, yes, it is dangerous, it could be dangerous, you will ruffle some feathers, you will create some friction, you will create some fire, you might create some destruction. There will always be people that are unhappy with you. And it is also a possibility for people to want to unalive you. That's just true. And this is the witch wound. This is the persecution wound. This is a fear of many women who who have something to say, yeah, but it is a collective trauma. It is a collective energy body that we have to come out of if we want to be visible and show up as authentic as possible, share our own energies, share our own perspective, but also speak up for other people and know what is going on, you know? So, yeah. So, how to overcome fear? Yes, it is about acknowledging the fear, feeling into it, feeling that it can be legitimate, right? So the fear doesn't grip you. The fear doesn't take a hold of you. You can still move, and that is the biggest thing here. The success principle here is to feel the fear and to still move. To feel the fear, not to deaden the fear, not to suppress it, not to deny it, but to actually fear it, be aware that there is a risk, and still moving forward, still speaking your truth, still being seen, and all of that. And doing it the best you can, as long as you can, as long as you can. Because of course, I pray for you, I pray for all of us that nothing is going to happen, and that we're not going to feel any pain, that we're not going to feel anything that is actually threatening to our physical safety. Yeah. So that's it. That's what we don't want to do it, but we have to be aware that it is dangerous. And as I always like to say, my biggest tool here is actually to know that I would, if I have to, fight. Yeah, whether it be verbally, protecting myself emotionally, protecting myself physically. I'm not saying that I'm good at it. I don't want to provoke it. I'm not calling it in. But I think that is already one thing that has given me power, more power to actually embody all that I am. Yeah. To know that there can be some negative energies provoked. Yeah, because it is true. You will evoke the darkness if you shine your light. Yeah. So this is a little root work, yeah, about the fear, or how to overcome fear and the nature of fear, and actually that it's legitimate, and that we learn how to navigate it by letting the light shine even brighter. Okay. So that's it. I would love to hear from you. Did it make sense? How do you feel about it? Are you afraid? Have you suppressed your fear and be like, oh no, actually, it's not dangerous. Oh my God, I have done it so many times. I have done it so many times. And I believe and I know that this is a common thing for women to suppress the fear and be like, oh no, it's not dangerous. But even though you feel it in your underbelly, you feel it in your womb, you feel that it is dangerous to be walking outside alone. Yeah, maybe walking past 100 refugee men. Yeah, it can be dangerous. So we don't want to deny it. Our emotions give us signals and information, and then we can learn how to utilize those signals in a mindful way. Mhm. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm looking forward to hear from you. Until then, take care.